Welcome everyone to our August meeting of the Shire Council. Of course, accepting that we're doing this via life size, and it is some difficulties, but we'll do our best to overcome those and nonetheless have a productive meeting. We have two apologies, those from Councillor Taylor and Councillor Higgins. Are there any further apologies? No further apologies. Someone happy to move those apologies, please? Just raise your hand and we'll get that. Councillor Derrick and Councillor Certainty. There being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Again, just raise your cards. Hand, thank you. Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on Thursday the 22nd of July. Looking for a mover and a seconder for those minutes. I'm happy to move the minutes of the last council meeting. Councillor Certainty moved, seconded Councillor Druce. Thank you, Councillor Druce. Councillor Certainty.
Hello. How you going?
Yeah, no issues. Just moving the recommendation.
Oh, I was trying to get.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions before we put that? Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. We're moving on to disclosures of interests. Is there any person who has a disclosure that they need to make in reference to any part of this meeting? And if so, they would have had a disclosure form which can be dropped into the council offices after the meeting at some stage. Councillor Derrick, I'm noting that you have raised your card there. You have just one item that you would wish to exclude yourself from the meeting.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just the same item that I've been declaring interest for in the last couple of meetings. That's item 3 under the reports of Divisional Manager of Finance and Administration, just regarding the council chambers administration building improvements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Derrick. There been any further excuse me, disclosures of interest? I think, Gary, all we need to do is just note that, don't we? There's no need for a mover and a seconder, is there?
That's correct, and we'll just change it to say vacate the meeting at the right time we call you back.
Certainly. That being noted, move on to excuse me, item 5 of the agenda. That is mayoral minutes. There are no mayoral minutes at this for this meeting. Moving on to item 6, which is the report of the committees. The first of those is the meeting of the Sporting Facilities Committee held Wednesday, the 4th of August. Someone happy to move those minutes of that Sporting Facilities meeting? Councillor Williamson, you're on screen. Unmute yourself, Councillor Williamson, if you would like to move the minutes of the Sporting Facilities meeting.
Well, you there?
Yes, Councillor Williamson, yes.
Yeah, love to move them, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded. Seconded. I can second that. Councillor Irving, thank you. Councillor Irving, speak because I haven't got you on the screen. Thank you for that. Good on you. Councillor Williamson, would you like to speak at all to the Sporting Facilities Committee meeting minutes?
Look, I'm just moving the recommendation. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Unless you'd like to speak to it, please. Yep.
Thank you. Look, I think we did have a pretty productive meeting there. There were 4 different versions of the Carter Oval Master Plan presented to that meeting. We had a pretty full and frank discussion about how that master plan sat, and eventually the 4th plan we did decide on as the best use of all that space. You do think you've got a whole lot of space up over there, but when it's all said and done, it's actually all allocated to various sports and uses. So I think it really came down to the infrastructure manager doing a great job in terms of getting as much use out of that space as he possibly can. So the program there is that we will go out to public exhibition with that master plan. There will also be a column on the master plan which indicates which parts of the master plan are funded at present, which parts we're actually in the process of waiting for a grant approval, and the other parts will be the parts that we see happening in the future. So I think we just need to be quite clear about what actually can be done immediately, what we're proposing, and what's probably a distance in the future. But it'll all be there so people understand. We don't want to raise expectations about and beyond what can actually be achieved. So look, I think that was a really good plan. And we also discussed the Victoria Oval and Oxley Park, which is where the Oxley Park water tower, etc. is. It comes into the Crown Lands management plan, and so that was also discussed. But that, in many ways, Victoria is already fully planned, and so it was just a matter of going through that as well. I wonder whether Councillor Irving, have you got anything else to add? You were at that same meeting.
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. I think, is there any further questions, comments before we adopt those minutes of the sporting facilities meeting? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to the second of the reports of the committees, the Public Arts Committee. That meeting was held on Monday, the 9th of August.
Sorry, you're all freezing on me. Can you see my card?
Lost sound with Milton. Where is Milton?
Yeah, he's gone on mine too.
Yeah, I heard a rush door, so someone's gone to help him.
Blimey.
No worries.
All that money on IT, huh?
Yeah, that's what. Yeah, not enough money. Come on. Have we ever spent $1 in the last 30 years?
Spoken like a true general manager.
Hey, we have got iPads.
Oh, it's pretty good, pretty trendy. Hey, they worked today, didn't they? Not.
Does it turn out that the iPad is not friendly for this app? Or I wonder what's happening there.
Mine's working quite well. That's.
And that was just going to the link.
You might have
You just pressed the links here and it started.
Yeah, I had to enter as a guest, but yeah, that's no problem.
Sorry, apologies all. We've had a technical issue just here. So, as far as I got was the meeting of the Public Arts Committee, and I just asked Councillor Surdity if she was happy to move the minutes of that meeting. Councillor Surdity, you'd accepted that. I was looking for a seconder, please, for that. Councillor Williamson, second. Councillor Surdity.
Okay, yes, I'd like to move the recommendation as it stands, but just in relation to the item 5.1, if I could just add a little bit more of a background information to that, that would be appreciated.
Certainly.
Okay, as per the recommendation, sorry, I have to look sideways, but I'm looking at the paperwork. In the rest the same, it's just that we've had a bit of an update in the last couple of weeks since this all came to pass. Sam Brooks is now no longer able to actually paint the mural due to ill health, but he is happy for us to use his design mural as long as we can get some other artists to actually go ahead and do it for us. But it will be in collaboration with the one that we've already approved, which is his design. He's no problems with them changing the faces of the two individuals that are currently sports people. He has no problems with that, and he's happy to work with whomever we may pick to do the mural, as long as they acknowledge him as being the original creator of that particular concept. I've made sure that we've actually kept the Public Arts Committee informed of all of this. The recommendation that's in there will not really change, other than the fact that we have to get somebody who's willing to put their hand up and actually paint the mural for us. Gary has been in contact with a few of the artists. One has had to pull out due to her workload, which is Claire Foxton. So she's out of the picture, but the other three have indicated that they don't have a particular issue with using Sam's design, just as long as they can put their spin on it as well. So we seem to be down on the right path. So I've just done a wee little spiel for you, so it might make it a wee bit more informative for you. So after discussion with Sam Brooks, he has indicated that he will have to pull out of the project ill health. He's unsure how long it will take him to get back on his feet, and he is aware of our funding timeline for this project. He has also had to cancel some other clients at this time. Sam has advised that he is still happy for his designs to be used and for the faces of the sports people to be modified as discussed. He wishes to be acknowledged as the creator of the mural in collaboration with whomever may be the artist selected to paint the mural. Discussions have been held by our GM with the other artists and in the original voting round. These discussions have been positive, and staff are now modifying the specifications to ensure that all are aware of who does what exactly. I've kept the Warren Arts Committee informed, and the draft recommendation that will be advised by staff modifies the current recommendation from the committee to allow the process to continue on the required project timeline, but it still keeps the intent of the original committee recommendation. So when I say the discussions with the staff, it's just making sure, just before we finished up with Sam, Gary actually, with the help of the other staff, put together an email that said exactly who would be doing what. So that email is just going to be tweaked a little bit to reflect the information that we now have in relation to the other artists. So basically, it's just a recommendation to allow us to keep moving along with this project so that we don't get stuck time-wise. So unless the GM's got anything else to add to that, that's my information so far.
So, Mr. Mayor, am I right to talk?
Yes, certainly.
Yes.
So what's happening is that we actually had we just did an email to Sam Brooks in the end that actually well and truly spelled out what he was doing, what we're doing, and really that final thing was turned into, it will in the end make a really good specification. So we'll actually be able to do a really good specification for eventually the Nevertire water tower as well, using how we've changed the original spec. But if you have a look at item 5.1, a slight change, I'll read the recommendation out. The change recommendation is that council approve the final Sam Brooks 3D sporting concept murals for the Stafford Street Water Tower, Warren, with the persons shown in the mural to be not identifiable, but used as the basis for the mural, and that the concept design be used as a collaboration with another artist if required. Full stop. So there wasn't too much of a change right at the end there.
No. Yeah, no, I think that's just encapsulating the intent of what had transpired with Sam Brooks, etc. So yeah, I think that covers it in a better way. I have to say, councillors, I've had a look at those the concepts, and I'm suitably impressed with those. I just a basic show of hands if everyone is pretty. I'm enthusiastic about that. I think it looks really good, and it looks better than some of those other water towers around the place that I've seen. And yeah, everyone's sort of nodding in agreement here. I think they're where we want to be, and I think the Public Arts Committee's done a good job in getting to that stage, because they're a fair bit better than most that are around in other towns, and that's where we want to be. Thank you, Councillor Certainty and General Manager. Is there
So with
anything?
that, I'm happy to move that. I'm happy to move that amendment to the recommendation for you.
Certainly, with a change of wording there towards in the last line.
Yeah, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jodie's got that. Is there any further comments, questions before we put the minutes of the meeting of the Public Arts Committee? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the meeting, the meeting of the Plan Committee, the minutes of that meeting held on Tuesday, the 10th of August. Someone happy to move those minutes? Councillor Brewer, second. I'm lost. Councillor Beach. Yes, I can see Councillor Beach. Yeah. Thank you. Councillor Brewer.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Through you, these meetings, I've got to say, are quite complex. There's a lot of potential spending. There's a lot of potential saving, and a lot of to and froing. And I'd like to thank the General Manager up front for the clarity on the day. The Manager for Engineering Services also. They don't always agree on everything, but there's good, robust discussion on what we should do. So I guess the point here is that we don't come to these decisions lightly, and they're not flippant spending of money, that's for sure. It's quite a frightening amount of money that gets discussed and recommended to be spent in these meetings. I'll jump to the first couple of items are fairly benign, of course, but item 6.3 discusses the plant replacement program, and we went through a whole bunch of possibilities and what we would do. There's a couple of things that are dictating what we decide to do, particularly with small plant, is that even if we ordered now, some of these vehicles wouldn't arrive until the 2022-23 financial year, and I think Councillor Williamson will agree that the small plant that we have and that we needs to start getting replaced, just because there's a massive amount of backlog on vehicles and access and delivery. So some of the vehicles are for immediate replacement, and there's some pretty old and high mileage vehicles amongst those in 6.3 in particular. But we've decided to some of the vehicles like the sedan, the Toyota Orion, we've decided to push that into 22-23 because it's not high mileage. We considered the resale value now and the resale value then, and the fact that it's a pool car, essentially, we're going to leave that till later on. A couple of other vehicles as well, we've done the same sort of thing. So we've looked at the mileage, estimated between us what we think that the resale values are fairly conservatively, and that's how we've come up with 6.3, those recommendations in there. All of those commercial vehicles, if you like, the Hiluxes and those sorts of things, most of those need to be sorted out now. There's one there with a tipper. I think based on information from the workshop coordinator, Jason Boyd, we may be able to remove the tipper one more time because it's been around the buoy 3 or 4 times already. But it's a very useful part of the vehicle, and so we're going to transplant that once more and hopefully get another vehicle through it. And some of those other ones are just are going to be pushed out, some replaced now. The value of a second-hand Hilux at the moment is high, so this is the time to replace some of those vehicles. But we have a budget to work with as well. when we get to 6.4, which is the heavy plant, there are some things in there. There's a truck and a heavy trailer, which are the big ticket items. There's also a grader that was approved previously by council that hasn't gone out to tender, sorry, but hasn't been physically replaced. That'll happen quite soon. So that's out of the previous year's budget, but there was a lot of carryover in the budget. So we had a bit of money to play with, I guess, and it has allowed us to refresh our smaller plant and look at some of the larger plant as well. There was some discussion about larger trucks and the virtues of truck and dog combinations rather than road train combinations for a larger piece of plant. That's still in discussion, and we're trying to get to the bottom of which one of those we should have. So that was postponed for another meeting. We're just really trying to look at the value, not just the resale value, but the value to council of running that heavier plant. So that one was put forward. But all of these vehicles that you see here are significantly, well, they're in budget and under budget. And the manager for engineering services is very good at cutting these things off once we are approaching budget, if they start to go there. If our conservative estimates are not conservative, then we stop and we never ever go over budget. So it's more about the need and the priorities of the vehicle. So that was most of this meeting, was prioritising the spend, making sure we were getting the value for money that we thought we could get, and moving some of those longer mileage vehicles out of the system. So that's where we are. So I'm happy to answer some questions if anyone's got any. This is quite a complex meeting that we have. I quite enjoy them, and it's robust. And there's experts. Jason Boyd I think has been a great pickup for council. He seems to be across so much of the vehicles and maintenance and things like that. You know, it's been a really good experience working with him, and he helps us a great deal with things like values and breakdowns and maintenance and that sort of stuff. So yeah, we certainly are well informed in these meetings. So what you see in front of you is the outcome of that, almost 3 hours of it. So it was good.
Mr. Chairman, the grader that is approved for purchase went online yesterday. It will close on the 29th of September and should be, if everything goes sweetly, be able to be assessed by the committee at its next meeting on the 6th of October.
Yeah, thank you. And look, that's a classic example of, we've got a fork in the road here in terms of where we go with brands and things like that. And so we've got to weigh up where we are geographically and where that support comes from. This heavy plant now has, you know, telemetry and essentially, you know, mobile phone coverage back to the maintainers and things like that. It's a whole new world in terms of maintenance. They can pick up faults in some of this machinery before we can. So certainly that's going to be an interesting tender evaluation process. But thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Brewer, for that comprehensive rundown. Look, and very much take on board the point you're making. These are substantial sums of money out of council's budget. We need to do it properly, and I thank you and that committee and the Manager of Engineering Services, the General Manager, for putting the time into seeing how we best allocate our money in terms of plant. So yeah, very much appreciated. Any further comments, questions? Councillor Beach, do you have anything to add to that?
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. No, that was a excellent delivery of Councillor Brewer's. The only other thing there was the 6.4 with the amendments to the amounts. That was just purely a reflection on the increased value of those vehicles. So that was just an upgrade of that policy. But that's all. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Beach. Any further comments, questions to that committee at all?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, Councillor Irving here.
Yes. I've got you on the screen, Councillor Irving, at the minute, so this is good.
Okay, great. Yeah, I just wanted to thank Councillor Brewer, because my question was going to be, what's the criteria for plant replacement? And yeah, you explained that really well, so thank you.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding the plant committee meeting? Thank you, Councillor Brewer. Thanks, Councillor Irving, for her comments. Anything further before we put those minutes? Being the case, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the Roads Committee meeting held Wednesday, the 11th of August. Someone happy to move those minutes? I'm just looking for someone to move those minutes of the Roads Committee meeting. Councillor Beach, you online there? Councillor Druce will move that. Second. Yeah. Councillor Beach, you happy to second that?
Yeah, I'm happy to second that.
Thank you. Councillor Druce.
Can you hear me? Yeah.
Yes, Councillor Beach, I can hear you. I'm
Pass that one over.
So
can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Councillor Druce. I'm getting a, now I'm right, you're right again. Yep, thank you.
Yes, I'll just pass that over to either you or Councillor Beach, as I was an apology for that meeting. Thanks.
Thank you.
No, I think, sorry, yeah, I'm not back passing Mr. Mayor, but being the chair, I think I'll if you'd like to elaborate on the road situation.
Yeah. This Roads Committee meeting was almost totally confined to the issue of the Warren Road, so the Warren Road between here and Canamble, and where it sits in terms of funding that had previously been advised for the segments that are noted up there, 28, 30, 32, which is towards close to the Bullagreen, close to the end of our council area. And the issue is that we really haven't got enough money there to do the job that's really required in getting that road up to standard. So there's ongoing negotiations with our federal member in terms of trying to have enough funding to do the job properly. There's quite a number of culverts in that area. It's pretty wet bit of ground. We just need to understand that we're short there in doing it properly, and the Management Engineering Services went through that with us in quite a detailed way. The other things we touched on were where we talked about last time, where we would go with funding for local roads in terms of the grant applications that we'd made, and we just went over that again, and where gravel resheeting and construction fitted into all those that grant funding application that we're not aware of the outcome of yet. Wonder whether the General Manager, do you have anything to add, or the Management Engineering Services to those comments?
Mr. Chair, through you, Mr. Chairman, the Namble Shire have heard nothing, as I've heard nothing, other than from our transport representatives who advise that there's a fair bit of discussion between Canberra and the state representatives regarding it. Other than that, not an idea, nothing.
No. So, Management Engineering Services, we got, what's our funding level? We think is about 1 point what for that section?
We have 1.679 according to the books. That's million. And what I've advised them to do that work with the 12 culverts and to upgrade the road and put a new seal on it is 3.4 million. And I honestly don't think we should accept any scope of works until we've got adequate funds. Now, the Warren Road is part of the Rossi upgrade program, state or national upgrade program. And I'm just asked them to use that as a little bit of influence to try and find some more brass for us.
Yeah. So we're not, councillors, we're not abandoning this project, but we're just saying that if we want to do it, we want to do it properly. You know, and you just heard the numbers from Management Engineering Services. You know, really 3.4. You know, let's say even a bit more to do it properly, and the allocation at the moment 1.6, closer to 1.7. So it's a fair way short. So negotiations will continue, and we'll see if we can resolve this one, particularly in light of that road being one of the roads of strategic importance in the federal government's planning. So yeah, it's more an information report than anything else.
Mr. Chairman, we did discuss discussions with our local federal member in regard to that when things settle down a little bit.
Yep, absolutely. Thank you. Anything further on that, on the Roads Committee report? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the meeting of the Mannix Committee held on Tuesday, the 17th of August. Someone happy to move those minutes, please? Councillor Irving to move that, seconded Councillor Servedy. Councillor Irving. Councillor Irving, just unmute yourself.
Yes, sorry. Yeah, so just thank you. Yes, through you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to ask a question about the vandalism of the trees in Ravenswood Park. It's a bit disappointing. It sounds like it was a pretty severe attack on the trees. So, yeah, just when did that occur? Was it very recent? Was it during the lockdown or prior to that?
Yes, bored kids or adults with children's minds between lockdown.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. Other than that, that was about all. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Irving. I would note that the Manager of Engineering Services was present at that meeting in that he seconded the motion, but he's not noted in those present there. So we might just add Manager of Engineering Services as one of those fellows who was present.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Anything further? Any questions regarding the Mannix meeting held on the 17th of August? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Just getting a little bit of feedback from someone. Microphones. Yeah, thank you, that's better. Thank you. Moving on to the minutes of the Local Emergency Management Committee held on Tuesday the 10th of August. Looking someone to move those minutes, please. Councillor Derek. Councillor Druce, happy to second that. Councillor Derek, just unmute. Just thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yep, happy to move the minutes and perhaps ask if the chairperson or any of the attendees have anything to add. It looks like there's a good turnout and good to get that meeting in just the day before lockdown commenced.
Thank you, Councillor. Manager of Engineering Services, as chair of that committee, the Local Emergency Management Committee, do you have a comment or two and bring everyone up to speed, if you wouldn't mind?
Yeah, the meeting went smoothly as indicated in the minutes. The next day was a bit of an alarming point, but that's life. I think we're working pretty well, particularly the REMO, right through this whole scenario. There's daily, or it's now cut back, but there was daily communication with the police and all the emergencies persons and myself at 1 o'clock each day. It's now been cut back to Monday, Wednesday and Fridays, those communications. We are quite sweet, let's say, until at the moment, unless I'd like to see us stay that way within the whole area. Up north where you've got Warriner, Walgett, Burke, Cobar, it's quite an alarming area, as well as Dubbo. So I think, our meetings are quite stable, and I think we're ready for most of the situations that come across. This COVID one is a bit of an ordeal because there's not a lot that any individual can do.
Thank you. Any further questions regarding the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Okay, Councillor Druce, do you have a question? Sorry.
Yes, just a question with the New South Wales Police report. With a lot of reporting going on social media, I'm just wondering whether it could be recommended that they maybe put more reports into the local paper on what the issues and what's happening, and maybe put it out there a bit more to report things to the police.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I will discuss that at the next meeting with the administrator of that committee or that group. One of the police officers by Ken Brisbane, who's located in Dubbo, I think, he reports each lunchtime quite specifically on the actions that have been taken to eradicate some of the wrongdoings throughout the area. So I think it's possibly, like you say, worth bringing to note, just to let them know that the police are doing the job and administering the requirements of the COVID situation according.
And further to that, Councillor Druce, the General Manager in the Major Engineering Service, Major Finance Administration and Deputy Mayor had a meeting programmed with the new Sergeant of Police, Rebecca Biles, and her immediate overseer from Dubbo. This was yesterday, I think we were programmed to do that, and of course the stay-at-home orders have got in the road of that. So certainly very happy when we do meet to raise that issue with them and get it on the front page. I agree entirely. Social media is no way to report crime. It's let's talk to the proper people. Otherwise, of course, as we've discussed before, if they don't have a record of stealing or any other altercations, etc., then there's nothing to go to their superiors and say we need help here. It's a no-win situation. So yes, we'll certainly bring that to their attention. Anything?
And Mr. Mayor.
Councillor Irving.
Yep, Councillor Irving. Yeah, just thank you, Councillor Druce, for mentioning that. I just thought to what the motivation for the stealing is. I've heard that they're stealing food. I'm not sure if that is prevalent with all cases, but it would be interesting to find out the motivation and then look at maybe the root causes for the problems for those support agencies that might be able to target that within families potentially.
Yes, thank you, Councillor Irving.
Just a comment.
No, and a valid one. We need to know what it actually is. Stealing, what does that actually mean? Exactly. Whether, all sorts of stuff. Is it livestock? Is it small equipment? Is it, what is it? Yeah, let's find out what's really happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything further on the minutes of the Local Emergency Management Committee meeting? Being the case, put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the minutes of the Association of Mining and Energy Related Councils, which is not listed in. Oh, sorry, that is actually reported to the delegate. Sorry, I'm getting in front of myself, but that is where we're up to. We're on to item 7, reports to council. And that is the one meeting there. That is the delegates report to the meeting to us from the meeting of the Mining and Energy Related Councils held in some little time ago, 30th of April. No, 30th July. Sorry, it's written in my agenda as 30th of April, but it's actually 30th of July. Councillor Irving, I suggest you will be happy to move that. And Councillor Irving, happy to move it?
Yes, I'm happy to move that.
Councillor Druce, Councillor Irving.
Yep. So the 30th of July, I attended that meeting online. There was option to, oh no, because of there were recent cases of COVID in Orange, so the meeting, it was decided to have the meeting online. So, but it was still very productive. We had 3 speakers. The first one, Felicity Greenway, she spoke about the rapid assessment framework. The intentions of that are to improve quality insurance with and processes in relation to state significant projects. There was concern though by the executive of the MERC Association that that often when with the rapid part of it, the rapid assessment, it means that sometimes that community engagement and the obtaining of social license to move forward in a project is often overlooked or not done thoroughly, although that's not what Felicity was saying, but there was concerns about that framework. But yeah, she gave a very thorough presentation on that. And then Ian Greenham, he also gave a thorough presentation on water management and in relation to drought. So I've got thorough notes on that, so I'll intend to pass those on to our General Manager. The focus there was capturing stormwater and also recycling of water, although there's, community perceptions, they're not positive about recycling sewage. But then when you have an example in place that the community can see, then often that change shifts the attitudes towards that. There were a lot of the use of swamps in terms of drought proofing, I guess, communities. So then Karen Stark, someone that we could probably connect with as a council. I'll talk to General Manager about that, and the Economic Development Committee could probably look into this. So Realliance, the organisation is privately funded, and it has a broad cross-section of members. It used to be the Wind Alliance, but they've now included solar energy, and they're there as a group to lobby on behalf of solar and wind energy in Australia. It's a nationwide organisation. Karen, though, was based in Narromine, so I thought she spoke really well. Yeah, and I was able to mention our concerns with the renewable energy zone boundary and just highlight that. Yep. Any questions?
Thank you, Councillor Irving. Are there any further questions regarding the report in relation to the mining and energy related councils? Thank you then, Councillor Irving. There being no further questions, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the policy part of our agenda. We have no policies to consider at today's meeting. Then moving further along to the reports of the General Manager, and the first of those, item 1, the outstanding reports checklist. Someone happy to move the outstanding reports checklist, please? Councillor Sturdy is happy to move that. Looking for a seconder. Councillor Derrick. Councillor Sturdy.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of follow-up questions, if I can, please. If you can bear with me, just a couple of them. I know we probably still haven't heard anything back from Telstra about the black spots. So I'm just wondering, is it time to move it up the next notch up in the chain of command to try and get some sort of a response one way or the other? Because we can be going around like this from forever and a day, and we still not getting anything from Telstra.
The General Manager has been conversing. I'll pass it on to the General Manager to respond to that one, Councillor Sturdy.
So two things, something reasonably positive. There's a chance that regional New South Wales has been able to put some pressure on Telstra. This is Department of Regional New South Wales is putting some pressure on Telstra to actually at least get temporary telephone/data towers at Nevertai and Collie during this extreme time. So we might actually see what Collie and Nevertai Telstra wise can happen very, very soon. Not guaranteed, but the mere fact that a New South Wales government department is putting some pressure on Telstra to say, well, during this time, particularly data-wise, everyone's at home, Nevertai, Collie, so we might see what happens improvement-wise temporarily there. And second one is that we have listed a number of sites to Telstra that that particular other organisation is considering using and saying please consider going in with the organisation that might be putting something at Nevertai and a few other locations because we could stop becoming a Telstra shy and become an Optus shy.
Yeah. Councillor Sergio, I'd have to say that the Telstra fellow that I initially...
For that,
Councillor Sergio, I'd have to say the Telstra fellow who I was in contact with and now the General Manager's in contact with hasn't been the quickest person to respond ever. And apologises when he does respond, but it's not a quick process. So I would take very much on board your point. We probably need to keep the hammer on these guys because otherwise we won't get anywhere. But at least it's in their minds, Councillor Serdi. I think it was just no, nothing. Where at least I think we're getting some degree of attention, but certainly need some more. Was there another question, Councillor Serdi?
Mr. Mayor.
excellent, thank you.
Sorry, just hang on. I think Councillor Beach has
Just another couple if I can.
Just hold 2 seconds, Councillor Serdi. Councillor Beach might just have a comment on the regarding telecommunications, I think.
Yes, thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, just please don't forget the northern end of the Shire. The Mount Foster one is just, I'm getting consistent complaints about it down here. Even though we have one, the quality of it's just not acceptable. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Serdi, we take that. Thanks, Councillor Beach. Councillor Serdi, do you have some further questions?
Agree. It needs to be the whole Shire.
You had some further questions?
The one in relation to, we put out an expression of interest to see if we could get more members on the Public Arts Committee. I'm just wondering if we've had any expressions of interest come back in yet.
No, and it closes on the 2nd of September. If I don't get any, I'll continue to advertise.
Excellent, thank you. And I think probably the last one I had for you, bear with me a second, I'll just find it. I'll be a sec. It was to do with, I think there was supposed to be a meeting, if my memory serves me correctly, with Field Solutions on the 17th of August, you know, what was happening with the Nevertai proposed bit of land. Has anything come out of that yet?
Thank you, Councillor. I think we'll defer to the Manager of Finance and for that one. He was dealing with that matter, I believe, if he's online there.
Mr. Mayor, at this point in time, they're looking at trying to come out and do the surveys and things, but they basically, with COVID and things, they've just shut down again.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Thank you.
Still on the books anyway.
Yes, Manager Finance Administration, they were still hoping to proceed, but it's just been interrupted by the circumstances, COVID circumstances now. Is that your understanding?
Correct. I actually had a phone call from our local surveyor. He was very hesitant They were supposed to go out on the 17th and just do the final site plan, if you like, and he was very hesitant with the stay-at-home orders and that things to go out, and they all agreed, so they postponed it once again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any further comments, questions regarding the outstanding reports checklist, item 1 of the General Manager's report? Being nothing further, we'll put that. Excuse me. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2 of the General Manager's report, and we will not miss a beat, councillors. Even technology will let us allow us to, in recognition of Warren being a healthy town and to keep awareness of a healthy lifestyle, Council will be standing while dealing with item 2 of the General Manager's reports.
Mr. Mayor, are you trying to check what tile we've got from the belt down?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just making sure we don't want to one of those newsreaders who stands up and it's not quite as appropriately dressed as they might be. Item 2 of the General Manager's report regards the committee and delegates meetings. Is someone happy to move those? And someone will have to duck down so I can see the hand. Councillor Irving, are you happy to move that? Was that your hand? Yes. Thank you. Councillor Irving moved.
Yes, it was.
Seconded Councillor Walker. Councillor Irving.
Yeah, I just want to add the Mining and Energy Related Councils Association meeting on the 30th of July. I can just add that one.
Thank you.
To the list. Thank you. Other than that, yep, that's all. Thank you. Happy to move.
Any further additions, comments regarding the committee and delegates meeting? The General Manager's report, item 2. No, is everyone stood up for long enough?
Heather?
Councillor Drews? Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to comment. It was terrific when we were able to go out and have a look at the sewage treatment work site. It was, yeah, great to see what was happening out there. So thank you for organising that.
Absolutely. Yes, it gives you, I agree entirely, Councillor Drews, it gives you a good handle on what a substantial undertaking that is, and how well it's been done by the contractors. And I think they're really, in many ways, looking after Warren Shire Council by looking at the design and really getting the best out of it. So it is a well-functioning sewage treatment plant. So yeah, agree entirely. Anything further out of item 2 of the committee and the delegates committee and delegates meetings? No, there being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Please have a seat if you're so inclined. Moving on to item 3 of the report to the General Manager, and that being the Works Progress Report, infrastructure projects. The recommendation is that the information received and noted. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Derrett. Second, Councillor Williamson, was it? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Derrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just one question from me, just in regard to the swimming pool refurbishment, which we did speak about at the last council meeting. Just wondering if there's any further comment on that, and perhaps an update on how things are progressing towards opening on time. Thank you.
Look, yes, progression not great. We've really decided that it's really too late to engage Bocorp again in terms of getting it refurbished, and it'll have to be put up to off till next year. But I wonder whether the Manager of Health and Development might have a comment there. She's been liaising as directly as possible with those people. So, Marianne, I wonder if you might just have a comment.
Mr. Mayor. Yes, unfortunately, yeah, BOCORP, especially with the COVID situation, haven't been able to deliver the services as promised. So yeah, rather than not opening the pool on time, we did make the decision to postpone that work until the following season. Yeah.
Thank you.
Are there any further comments, questions regarding the works progress infrastructure?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, on that, with what the Manager Health and Development has just stated, we did discuss it at our sporting facilities meeting. So, yeah, councillors did have input to that decision, and we were concerned that if BOCORP did come and it was all delayed, yeah, the pool would not be open. So we made that decision not to open the pool. I mean, not to engage them if it meant the pool was going to be opened late. So I have one question in relation to, on page 15, talks about the Warren Showground Racecourse Complex Equestrian Arena with a focus on women for the application for the Stronger Country Communities Round 4 grant. I'm not sure if I've missed something, but the focus on women aspect, maybe General Manager, do you know what that entails, the focus on women? It sounds positive.
To women. Yeah, what happened was that the state government, through the Deputy Premier, announced that at least 50% of the projects that we should try to get should have a serious focus on women. And very fortunately, a lot of ladies and girls like riding horses. And so the equestrian centre is a pretty good tip, because we want to make sure that we're actually fully and properly funded for that project. And those two projects actually haven't been announced yet, but that 95,944 and above it, the 671 is the total amount that's kind of allocated to the Warren Shire local government area. And the same thing with the Carter Oval Sports Precinct, where the amenities block, kiosk and area, which isn't funded, we can very easily say that a lot of the sports are women and girls orientated. So just going up the line to make sure that we are funded.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Is there any further comments regarding the Works Projects report in relation to infrastructure projects?
Mr. Mayor, on page 17, something very interesting. The last one, which is the Bob Christensen Reserve Walkway Improvement Project that we put in for the Murray-Darling Basin Economic Development Program Round 3. We actually had a letter a couple of weeks ago detailing that it wasn't off the list yet. Okay. We thought we'd missed out, so there's a small chance that hopefully our positive liaison with the Minister 3 or 4 weeks ago might help us.
Thank you for that update, General Manager. Yes, look, every project is a worthwhile project, and the more we can get happening in relation particularly to this one with the walkway from Bob Christensen Reserve, it'll be just another valuable asset to getting people, when they do go to the Bob Christensen Reserve, that they might then be able to walk into town and utilise the services of our local businesses. So that is indeed a positive. And for likewise our locals to walk out to Bob Christensen Reserve and be near the river there at the boat ramp, etc. So yeah, works both ways. So if that gets up, fantastic.
Can you hear me, Mr. Mayor?
Yes, Councillor Walker. If that was...
I'm just wondering in relation to these projects, the Murray-Darling development facilitator, Ewan, what's he doing in this scenario? And is he doing anything? Well, COVID's probably stopped him coming out, but is he working behind the scenes?
I've had a meeting with Owen, yes, and he's thinking he's trying to get a handle on particularly where we are now, but then where we might go, and he's actually thinking fairly laterally about possibilities for Warren Shire. He is very enthusiastic about the possibilities that we do have here for economic development, and he's does get back to Dubbo, which is really where he's based, and is able to talk with those in government who bureaucrats who he can put our case fairly strongly. And I know he's actually also had a meeting with the general manager, and the general manager might have a comment as well. But just, I think he's the right person for the job, Councillor Walker. He's thinking at a level where it's substantial types of projects and the substantial additions to our community. And yeah, I think in the fullness of time, without COVID constraints, I think we'll have some productive meetings with him, and I think we'll find a way forward that'll be really exciting for us all. General Manager might have some further comments, please.
Yes, mate, watch this space with the Economic Development Committee. There'll be lots of his reports going, because he's been working a fair amount on, I'll call it the draft. Sometimes they call it the Derek Plan, but the Economic Development Strategy and Action Plan, which probably will be much higher level than the previous ones. That'll get reported and a process to get there's also tourism, economic development, marketing, all those sorts of things are being considered in further reports. Plus, he did do a reasonable amount of help to Dave Duncan with the Burma grant application, and small chance he actually might want to come and live here. You never know.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. The General Manager's comment regarding to the Derek plan, that was, Councillor Derek put a great plan together with Alison Ruskin-Rowe and Emma Welsh. But quite frankly, that was in a different time where we got excited about getting $10,000 in a grant. Now we're, it's $10,000 is great, but it's small in comparison. So we're very much working at a very, very different level here. And yeah, Councillor Derek has laid the groundwork, and with her colleagues has done a great job. So yes, the General Manager, I think was talking tongue in cheek there very much, Councillor Derek.
Yes, through Mr. Mayor, I would like to say though that the bulk of the work was actually done before I arrived in economic development. So yeah, that was all Emma Welsh and Alison Ruskin-Rowe. I came late to the party. Can't credit. Thank you.
I thought I only saw your fingerprints on it, but okay.
Thank you for that.
It's starting to be pretty positive, and I think he is a positive young man. I think he was going to go and do a presentation to the Chamber of Commerce meeting tonight that's not on, and I think he'll probably move. Hopefully we might be out of some sort of lockdown and see him at the next Chamber of Commerce meeting. I think that's the 23rd of September.
Thank you. Are there any further comments on item 3 of the General Manager's report regarding infrastructure projects? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 4 of the General Manager's report, and that relates to the local government union picnic day. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Druce has moved it. Seconded, Councillor Surdity. Councillor Druce.
Yes, I'm just happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, I wonder whether we should cover bases with what could happen in the near future with COVID continuing on to causing difficulties. With the mover and seconder's permission, give me the delegation to approve it if it needs to be moved due to the COVID stay-at-home orders, if possible, please, because there is a chance that we could have the whole of September taken out too.
Absolutely, accept that point. And I'm seeing positive signs from both Councillor Druce and Councillor Surdity in relation to that. So I think that's a given, that you have the delegation to allocate an appropriate date in the circumstances that the picnic day has to be moved as a result of COVID stay-at-home orders. Councillors, you're all happy with that amendment? Yep. Anything further on that item, item 4, local government union picnic day, and referencing that amendment to the information, the recommendation? Nothing further. We'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 5, the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference, which has been postponed. Just going to where the recommendation is there. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Derrick, seconded Councillor Surdity. Councillor Derrick.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy with the recommendation as it is. Thank you.
Councillor Derrick, I think there was a time frame for actually nominating some names, for attendance at that. We're saying Mayor and General Manager and one interested councillor. Mayor, Deputy Mayor, General Manager, one interested councillor. But then reading through, I think there was a time frame. Was there, General Manager, in terms of nominating actual name? I think that's probably a fairly well, it's not a reasonable thing to ask, in that there'll be a council election prior to this actually occurring. So what I'm saying is we just need to just nominate. It'll be the mayor and the voting candidate. We won't actually be able to nominate any names beyond that.
No, if you let me, say for example, new council, January council meeting, I could just ask if there are any interested councillors to try to get there, and have a little bit of a toin cost or something like that if more than one is interested. It's really just to put it out. Okay, it's time. Is any interested councillors? And if a couple put their name up, just talk to the both to try to get the one who's the most interested.
Yeah.
Would that be okay? Or
yeah, look, I think so. I just think local government New South Wales just haven't quite thought it through. Exactly. That's what I'm suggesting.
Look, look, we got ahead of ourselves. This report was done because it was supposed to be something, and then way after and nothing's gone right with the poor old local government New South Wales because of the movements. Mr. Mayor, just as a check, need to check with the executive assistant. Is it Monday the 28th of February? Not Sunday the 28th? Yeah. That's a slight little change, but if you're happy with, we just don't know who's interested until early next year, and we organise an interim councillor by really asking and negotiating.
Yeah, I think the intent is perhaps here just to let councillors know that that this conference is coming up and that we will be attending, and that there will be the mayor, the deputy mayor, an interested councillor and the general manager attending. I think if we understand that that's the basic premise on which we're working here, then we're under control.
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Certainly.
Yeah,
Yes. Councillor Irving.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. They mention a 1 hour online event. Is that accessible for all councillors on the 29th of November? Yeah, we can register for that. Okay, thank you.
Yes, but then the mayor will be the only one a voting delegate.
Yep, no worries. Thank you.
But that, for your information, as I understand it, that is just to accept the president's report or the chairperson's report and their financial statements and those sorts of things. It won't be really to do with the body of the conferences. So I think they're just attempting to get that part out of the road, is from what I understand.
Okay, thank you.
The other thing yep.
Excuse me,
and
Mr.
that's why number 2's there, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Because that's you know, anybody who's interested, you tell us, we'll organise you to listen in on it, but the mayor's the one who can vote.
Yep. Thank you. Any further comments or questions regarding item 5 in the Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference?
Excuse me, Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Yeah, the motions also that need to be put in by the 30th of January, so we have plenty of time to discuss if we want to put any motions in for this.
Yeah, yes, and I think it relates to the next item, Councillor Walker, item 6 on this on the agenda.
Oh,
beg
your pardon.
Yeah. No, that's fine. But I think it is a little well, no, it's not confusing. We're separating the two things, and we'll consider motions certainly right up until that date. But I think if we can have them in a timely manner, that's a long way in front. And but let's just the minute consider item 5, and then we can move on to item 6 in a minute. Anything further on item 5 regarding the Local Government New South Wales Conference, and it being split into two parts, and that the mayor, deputy mayor, one councillor, and the general manager be those who attend that actual conference. Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, moving on to item 6, and Councillor Walker, the Local Government New South Wales Special Conference motions. I wonder whether you might be happy to move item 6 of the General Manager's report there.
I'd be very happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Walker. Second, Councillor Sturdy. Councillor Walker.
Well, really just that we have put in, as it says, those motions before on those various aspects. And I think the idea of trying to put a motion in for health is a good way to go, and to work on that, although I noticed that the General Manager and Mayor to formulate the motions, but some discussion before that's done.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, I think they're a starting point, Councillor Walker, and happy to, I think we need as a whole council to understand what the motions are that we're going to put to the Local Government New South Wales Conference. the other point, a couple of points I'd make are that we won't be alone in a lot of those, the intent of a lot of those motions, particularly in regard to health. That's a big issue in regional New South Wales and right through local government in New South Wales, with more particularly regions, I believe. So what tends to happen, a lot of those motions actually, individual council motions get lumped together, and then they're put as a particular motion with a note, as we've seen before, regarding all the other councils who've made a similar motion, so that they're dealt with in a timely and a concise way. The other thing that I believe that we should add to our list there at the moment is dissemination of information from local health networks, particularly we speak in relation to Western Local Health District, in just getting timely and accurate information, particularly in relation to COVID, and the fact that people who are non-resident in the Warren local government area are being recorded on the New South Wales Health website as being resident here, and it created, particularly I know for Councillor Taylor, a degree of angst and right through the community. He unfortunately had a lot of his workforce say, well, I'm not able to come to work if we have these number of cases in Warren, and just for the community to understand that that's not the case. Being told by what should be a credible source some information that's not correct is not, in my view, acceptable. And then it undermines the credibility of New South Wales Health when something does happen and they say, oh, they've got it wrong before, we won't take any notice. It's not where we want to be. So we need to bring that to the attention, and I don't think we'll be on our own in raising that particular matter either.
No, very good point.
We'll have time to discuss those. Councillor Irving, I'll come to you in 2 seconds. We will have, but just give some serious thought to what you might want to propose there. And what was the closing date for motions, Councillor Walker? Did you recall that? 30th of January. Yeah. Yep. So there is time, but let's consider them early so we get them right. Sorry, Councillor Irving, I was interrupting you.
That's okay. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I have another potential motion, but it'll obviously mean the new council will have to be supportive of it. It's just in relation to improving the transmission networks to develop solar energy in those LGAs, I guess, where there is majority of support for such developments, at the same time as having high levels of the daylight hours required. There seems to be this incongruence between where they want to develop solar energy and there's generally a lack of support there because of the intensive agriculture and also less daylight hours, whereas further west we have the ideal conditions as well as the general community support for such development. So we just want to maybe promote that a bit more. And we would definitely get the support of the mining and energy related commission associations, all the councils as members of that association would support our motion if we decided to have that. Thank you. I can put that in writing.
Yeah, that's the question. That was the question I probably had for you, Councillor. You're probably better across this than most. If you were to able to put a motion together for council to consider, that would be excellent.
Mr. Mayor, those two new dot points, like dissemination of timely and accurate information from New South Wales Health on non-residents being listed in COVID-19 cases is a good subject. Number 3, we add that in as a new dot, and improve transmission networks for solar energy development, particularly where communities are positive supporters of development of this nature. There's the start of your motion and subject. I reckon it's a good one. Those two are good ones to put in as new dot points.
Absolutely. If the mover and the seconder, Councillor Walker and Councillor Sturdy, are you happy to have those two dot points added in relation to timeliness of health advice and its accuracy, and in relation to where solar developments take place? Are you happy to have those added in as further dot points? Councillor Walker's agreeing. Councillor Sturdy, I think you seconded that. You happy? Yes, you're nodding. Thank you for that. Is there anything further then on the Local Government New South Wales Special Conference, the motions to go to that special conference? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. That's done. How are we all travelling, councillors? Are we handling it all right? Everyone's all right? Yep. Still communicating okay. Excellent. Moving on to the report to the Divisional Manager of Finance Administration. The first of those being the reconciliation certificate. Item 1. Someone happy to move the reconciliation certificate? Councillor Walker, seconded Councillor Williamson. Councillor Walker.
Just happy to move the recommendation. Thank you.
Manager of Finance Administration, just a question for you. Have we seen any of the grant funding, etc., coming in recent times? In that there was 932,000 coming into the general fund. Where did that transpire from?
That actually went out of general fund.
Sorry, wrong way around. Yes, sorry, apologies.
But we have received the final payments for the fixing local roads that was outstanding as at 30 June. We are currently being audited, and we're sending down all the information for the local road and community infrastructure program. It has to be audited by an external auditor, so we're just going to get our auditors that do the roads recovery to do that as well. So we should hopefully receive that money. Basically that's where we are. We still have a fair bit of money owing from government departments for some of our grants that we are chasing up at the moment.
Thank you. Anything further on the reconciliation certificate? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2 of the report of the Divisional Manager of Finance Administration, the statement of rates and annual charges. Someone to move that? Councillor Sturdy. Second, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Sturdy.
Just a comment that it's good to see that so far we're already up in our percentage of rates received, which is nice to see compared to past years. So hopefully it'll keep going that way. Thank you. I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Sturdy. Anything further on the statement of rates and annual charges? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. In relation to item 3, the works progress reports of Finance Administration projects, I know Councillor Derrett is going to vacate the meeting, and Councillor Derrett has registered a pecuniary interest in that matter. Councillor Derrett has left the meeting. Is someone happy to move the works progress report in relation to Finance Administration projects? Councillor Williamson, Councillor Sturdy. Councillor Williamson. Brett, do you just want to unmute yourself?
As a Manager of Finance, Darren, I think he will make sure he runs the budget, so it's looking very good. Thank you.
yeah, there's only a small amount of funding left to do what's proposed. So I guess we just wait and see how much we can get done within that budget. Darren, do you have any further comments?
Mr. Man, not at the moment. We were waiting on A1 Glass to come in and put the new interview room in again the week that we went into lockdown and Dubbo went into lockdown. So they are from Dubbo. So we're really just on hold at the moment. And until such times as things change a little bit, I think this is the way it'll be sitting for a while.
Thank you. Yeah.
We have put some of the signage up on the wall, and I am getting the local sign writer just to look at the frosting, but he still can't put any of that up until such times as the interview room's been installed anyway.
Yeah. Thank you. Well, I'd have to say the Warrandyte Council sign at the front of the at the entrance, it looks in the Dover, it sits behind the service desk, Service New South Wales desk, looks really good. So it adds a degree of professionalism to our officers that I'm really pleased to see, and I'm sure everyone else is pleased to see as well. But no one can walk in there at the present to see it, to admire it, which is a bit of a problem. Anything further on item 3, the Works Progress Report from the Manager of Finance Administration? No, being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Jody's just going to invite Councillor Derrick back into the meeting. We'll just wait till Councillor Derrick is back. Thank you, Councillor Derrick's back with us. Moving on to item 4 of the reports of the Division Manager of Finance Administration, and those are the financial reports for the year ended 30th of June 2021. Before we go there, look, I would like to congratulate Darren and his team for actually getting these sorted out again pretty promptly. I mean, end of the year is 30th of June, and now we're not to the end of August. It's all been completed. Congratulations to Darren and his team for just getting that, as always, sorted and done in such a responsible and timely manner. Now looking just for someone to move that. Councillor Surdey is happy to move. Councillor Walker is happy to second. Councillor Surdey.
Yeah, just very happy to move the recommendation and to reiterate what you just said on some admin people. So thanks again once for bringing us up there. Thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on the item 4 of the Division Manager Finance Administration's report, the financial statements? Financial reports, sorry, should be. Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to reports of the Division Manager of Engineering Services, and the first of those being the Works Progress Report in relation to roads. Someone happy to move the recommendation there? Councillor Druce, seconded Councillor Williamson. Councillor Druce.
Yeah, just happy to move the report and just asking the Division Engineering Manager, has the sort of rain really held up a lot of your works at the moment with the August, September sort of program?
Yeah, a lot of the work that's been completed, it was related to our, what we call emergency and work relating to the flood. We were almost working on top of the road only because the road shoulders and table drains were too wet to get into to do a full grade. But we've got to try and recoup the condition of the travelling part of the road. So that's where the graders were working. We're just trying to do what we can with the road surfaces. They've covered a fair bit of the ground, and the four graders have been working. So everything's going pretty well with that. So, yeah.
Thank you.
We have to finish, or our eligibility to claim for emergency works finishes on the 26th of September this year. So we're sort of concentrating on doing what we can to repair the services until our full flood assessment is made and the date expires. Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Yeah, what this wet weather's highlighted, Councillor Druce, is a lot of the sealed roads, the potholes that are starting continuously. You know, I see on the Martha Guy Road, the patching crew out there, the pave line truck out there. I'll fix everything that's there, and then a couple of weeks later, there's some more potholes appearing. So it's a constant maintenance job at the moment as a result of that wet weather. The other issue is that the edges of sealed roads, particularly, and all our unsealed roads, gravel roads, just the maintenance required to just keep them in good order, and the difficulties that the Manager of Engineering Services alluded to there is just too wet. Yeah, where was this problem a couple of years ago? Yeah, it's anyway.
Mr. Mayor, through you, the roadside maintenance team, which usually does all the slashing, they've been discontinued with that operation, and they are now working the second patching truck, which is making a fair bit of impression on the roads. Again, as I've repeated before, 700 kilometres of bitumen takes a fair bit of maintenance in weather like this.
Thank you for that. Any further comments, questions regarding the works progress reports? You'll notice the road classifier information there. As is often commented, the roads can't be too bad from some of those speeds, so it's interesting. But it's good to see that information there. At least we're seeing an idea of traffic counts. We can go somewhere with those numbers, which is really gratifying. And if anyone needs some real information about exactly where those traffic counters are located, I'm sure the Manager of Engineering Services can bring us right up to speed. But there is a fair idea of exactly where they are along the road. It's just difficult, I think, sometimes to actually, in our minds, say, the first one, we're 44 kilometres down the road along the Corinda Road. What's the landmark that's there that we identify with? What's 44 k's out of Warren on the Corinda Road? And but nonetheless, the information's there, and it's good to.
Mr. Mayor, can I just ask a question of the Manager for Engineering Services? The roundabout in Dubbo Street, what are we finding underground there, and what's the progress like on that?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, again, the three valves were installed last Sunday night. So we've got the turn-off situation. So everything's in progress for that. And that's the intent for the time being, to allow for works to be done in the roundabout. There's been no work. The valves have been turned off, so there should be no more leakage into the park at this point in time, we hope. In the roundabout.
Manager Engineering, so those pipes there relate only to river water, do they not?
Yes, that's correct.
So what that means for councillors is that businesses, etc., won't be inconvenienced by having that turned off, and that's a positive. General Manager, do you have a comment there? Sorry, as well.
Mr. Mayor, the leakage of mains around the intersection or around the roundabout is phenomenal, and there's link lines going everywhere. There should be no noticeable pressure loss or anything, or distribution loss from the closure of those valves and the discontinuity of water flowing through that roundabout.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
Mr. Mayor, what the town services people have done is installed 3 valves and turned off the river water mains that go through the intersection. When the roundabout gets reconstructed, we will renew the mains between the valves as part of the Department of Transport project. And what we're hoping is between times there won't be any more leaks.
Thank you for that. I think, did Councillor Irving, did you have a question, and then Councillor Williamson? Councillor Irving, did you have something you wanted to ask?
It's just a comment that we'll hopefully notice a difference in the count with lockdown. That was all.
Yeah.
For next meeting.
We'll see. Councillor Williamson?
Just one for our manager engineering. With those turn-off valves you put in there, will that river main have to be flushed through there occasionally to get rid of the end of the line, or what will happen there?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point in time, that's not to be considered. We'll wait and see what happens. The only time we should get any rubbish into the main is when there's a break further away somewhere. There's a bit of introduction into the main. Otherwise, the waters are fairly clean.
Okay, thank you.
Well, again, through you, Mr. Mayor, the Town Improvement Committee has resolved to move on with the design on the roundabout, which will be pretty well opened at the next Town Improvement Committee meeting, and that's sort of heading towards the rectification of the roundabout and what we can do with the water mains, and the water mains will be a big part of that exercise.
Thank you for that. Are there any further questions, comments regarding item 1 of the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services report regarding roads? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2 of the Divisional Manager of Engineering Services report relating to town services. Someone happy to move the recommendation there? Councillor Brewer. Second, Councillor Williamson. Councillor Brewer.
Happy to move the recommendation, and just to make a comment, I've had some very good feedback on the cemetery and the toilets that are there in the cemetery. Some very positive feedback and some very grateful people for that. So yeah, well done to the to council for installing those.
That's
Can I comment on that, Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, certainly, Councillor Irving.
Yeah, we want to, on the toilets at the cemetery, we thank the retired Reverend McLeod of Ningen. He was the one that first suggested we move forward on that project, and we were able to take that on board. So I'm pretty pleased we're able to take on communities' concerns about accessing those facilities at the cemetery. So yeah, he's retired to the coast now, so he won't be able to take advantage of them, but anyway, everyone else will.
Thank you. Sorry, there's Manager of Engineering Service, do you have a comment? Sorry, was there something else you wanted to say?
No, Mr. Mayor, nothing at this point in time.
So that toilet at the cemetery is all operational now, is it? Is that what?
No, Mr. Mayor, it's not operational. We're still waiting on parts, which is a bit of a concern for us. And you know, I don't know that we shouldn't just fix it ourselves, but anyway.
I'll leave that in your capable hands.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor.
Any further comments, questions regarding the Town Services report? Councillor Sturdee.
Just a quick comment. There's the work at the Nevertar tower is going really, really well. And whoever is, two chaps who are, because they sing on a regular basis while they're up on the tower, and I can hear it in the house as well. So it's very entertaining, lovely singing, very happy. Covers all the noise of everything else. Thank you.
Oh my goodness.
Oh, it's very entertaining. I tell you, very entertaining, very lovely.
Councillor Walker.
Yeah, through you, Mr. Mayor. I'm just wondering, the levy bank, due to what might happen in the future if there's a flood, is there any way of impressing that on some of these people and getting anything done, or any sort of work that might, negate if we have a flood?
Mr. Mayor, I will ask the General Manager to comment on that one.
Thank you.
Every time we see our local MLC and other people, the Mayor and I remind them.
But in the meantime, we have discussed a plan in the event that things get a little bit close to the possibility of a flood. We do have a pretty clear plan about how we will deal with the particular spot behind the dental surgery and community transport. So it is all in train. It has been considered, and the General Manager is so correct. We hammer away at this thing. We hope that there will be a second round of the flood mitigation grant funding, the one where we submitted to the New South Wales government, and then it got somehow didn't get transmitted in a timely manner to the federal government. We did everything correctly, and we have expressed our disappointment that the fact that it was caught up in government, it wasn't a problem that sat with Warren-Shire Council. So I would hope we'd be getting close to the top of the list if there's a second round, and we don't know whether that will occur, but if it does and when it does, we'll be making sure our local politicians bat very hard for Warren-Shire Council to get that up and done. But in the meantime, we have a plan in the event of an emergency.
Okay, thank you. I'm just hoping that the community, you take them along with you and let them know that, because they were very concerned before. So to know that council has a plan, just in, if it's required.
Councillor Walker, thank you for that. I might make a note of doing that at the Mayor's desk. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anything further on the Town Services Progress Report, item 2 of the Division Manager of Engineering Services? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. To item 3 of the Division Manager of Engineering Services Report, Works Progress Report regarding the fleet and the workshop. Someone happy to move that? Councillor Williamson. Councillor Bruce. Councillor Williamson.
Well, for the staff we've got up working in the up there at the fleet branch, I think we're very lucky to be getting the work done what they're doing. I think they're doing a great job. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Any further comments, questions regarding item 3? The Works Progress Report, going to the fleet and the workshop?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, sorry.
Yes, certainly.
Like I think for other councils, I think we've only got 2 staff up in the 2 staff in the works program in the shed. Is that correct, Rolly?
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. Yes, there are 2 staff, and one of them is Jason Boyd, who I heard earlier in the meeting, one of the previous committee meetings, helps me a lot with some of the reports I do for the plant committee. So, they're doing a pretty good job between the 2 of them up there. And one's, well, only just out of his apprenticeship, or he's got a light diesel apprenticeship. So they're doing very well. I'm very proud of the work they do.
Just because all other councils in, sorry, Mr. Trigger, Mr. Mayor, just, the other councils now, we're very light on staff up there, so the amount of work they're actually doing is excellent, I think. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, we do have another employee online, but we can't take him to get a medical check before anything's happened. We're the same, not only with my department, the other departments as well. We just can't move with the current COVID situation and lockdown situation.
Yeah. I understand completely, and I did notice you have a diesel mechanic subject to a medical ready to start in the next minutes there. So yeah, no, gratifying that you have someone. Annoying that we can't actually get them on the ground and get started. Any further comments regarding item 3 of the works progress report regarding the fleet in the workshop? Being nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to the report to the Manager of Health and Development, the first of those being the DAs. There are none of those. I guess we just have to note that there were none. Someone happy to move that there were no, the recommendation which there were no DAs. Councillor Derrett, Councillor Druce. Councillor Derrett, anything at all to add? No. In that case, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 2, the works progress report in the Health and Development Services sphere. Someone happy to move that the information received and noted? Councillor Irving, happy to move that. Second. Councillor Williamson. Councillor Irving.
Yeah, I'm just happy to move that. Yep, thank you.
Thank you. Anything further on item 2, the Manager of Health and Development report?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just wondering, there's 3 defibrillators. I'm just wondering where they're going.
I have to defer to the General Manager for that one, please.
To the Manager Health and Development Services, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Manager Health and Development, just Councillor Irving's question, Councillor Morpher's question, sorry, regarding where the defibrillators would be placed.
Mayor, there's one going at the work.
Just again, I missed that, but I'm not too sure everyone else got it. Just again, if you wouldn't mind.
Mr. Mayor, the 3 defibrillators will be going at the
we've just lost you.
Not working.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, we can now. Just the 3 locations, if you can get that out.
Yep. So the 3 locations is the waste depot, the works depot, and the camp huts.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any further regarding the works progress report from the Manager of Health and Development? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 3 of the Manager of Health and Development's report, and that is in relation to the partnership agreement with Service New South Wales for Business. Someone happy to move that recommendation? Councillor Derrett, second, and Councillor Walker. Councillor Derrett.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. From my understanding, it's just a continuation of what's been happening. So move the recommendation. Thank you.
Manager Health and Development, have you got any comments in relation to this? Is this an addition, or is it just to do with services that are already existing out of the Service New South Wales desk?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, are you able to hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Yep. So it's a continuation of existing services.
Thank you. Anything further on item 3 of the Manager Health and Development's report regarding the partnership agreement with Service New South Wales? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 4. Manager Health and Development Services report regarding Environment and Waterways Alliance Agreement. Someone happy to move that? Sorry, Councillor Irving, second. Councillor Walker, Councillor Irving.
I'm happy to move that. That recommendation. It seems like that particular alliance agreement is beneficial for moving forward for some of the projects that we might want to pursue and have their support of. Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, who seconded that?
Councillor Walker.
Thank you.
Any further comments, questions regarding item 4 in relation to the Environment and Waterways Alliance Agreement? Manager Health and Development, how many councils do you know are part of this alliance? Do you know how many there are? I mean, it extends from obviously it's the Central West, but how far does it actually go each way?
So I believe Bathurst, right up to the border. So I'm pretty sure Burke, it includes Burke as well.
Okay. Very comprehensive list of councils then. Thank you. Anything further then? Any further comments, questions regarding the Environment and Waterways Alliance Agreement? Nothing further, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Moving on to item 7 on our agenda, notice of motion, questions without notice. There are none of those. Item 8, there are no matters that I'm aware of, unless a councillor has something that they do need to raise as a matter of urgency. Being nothing there. Moving on to item 9, which is the confidential matters. So Councillor, we're happy to continue on. Do you need a break for a couple of minutes? How are we going? Yeah, I think Councillor Druce let's everyone unmute so we can just have a discussion. We just need a break for a second.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. 2 seconds.
Yeah, everyone just
We have
5 minutes, eh? And we'll just see when everyone comes back. Leave your cameras on, and we'll just come back. And when we know everyone's back again, we'll move into the committee of the whole. Darren, are you with us at the minute?
Recording now, Milton.
Thank you. We resume the meeting and move on to item 9 on our agenda regarding confidential matters. To do that, we need to move into Warren Shire Council Committee of the Whole. And what I'm asking is someone to move that Council proceeding to the Committee of the Whole, closed council, the time which is 10:57, to consider matters in accordance with section 10A 2, subsection D and I of the Local Government Act and section 10A 2, subsections E and G of the Local Government Act. Is someone happy to move that we proceed to the Committee of the Whole of Council? Moved by Councillor Druce, seconded by Councillor Surdity. Press and the public be excluded from the Committee of the Whole closed council in accordance with those same sections in 10A of the Local Government Act. Councillor Druce and Councillor Surdity, are you happy to move that as well? Thanking you. Sorry, I should have put that first motion before we moved on. We'll put the first motion. All those in favour of the first one, that we move into a Committee of the Whole? Against? Carried. And reiterating the second motion that the press and the public be excluded from the Committee of the Whole closed council in accordance with section 10A 2 of the Local Government Act in the relevant subparagraphs. Those two councillors are happy to move that. Again, we'll put that. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Now, go we back into a normal meeting now, are we
Yes.
not?
At 12:04, yep.
Okay, I'm just going to ask that Darren now start recording the meeting again.
Recording now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Gary, what's our procedure now? What do we need to...
You need a mover and a seconder for each of the resolutions of item 1 and item 2.
Yes.
The net waste and what we just did.
So they can be moved. They don't have to be the same mover and seconder as...
No.
So in that case, I'm asking for a mover and a seconder to move that the items 1 and 2 that were considered in the confidential section of the meeting of the whole of the meeting closed council be adopted. Those two recommendations. Someone happy to move those? Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Seconded, Councillor Walker. I don't believe there should be any further discussion, but is that Councillor Williamson?
No, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just move the recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. There being no further discussion, we'll put those two items have been moved and seconded, and we'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Against? Carried. Councillor Derrett back with us? Yes. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
She's good. Good. Okay. Now, that brings the meeting to a close. I now declare the meeting closed.